Alrighty, so Mission Yozakura video discussion. Finally, at last, we're finally to this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
So, the reason why I picked picked Mission Yozakura in particular is because it's been something that we've been what I've been talking about for a really long time. It's just we've never found the moment of when we're actually gonna talk about it. It's kind of been on the back burner for a while, but yes, and I figured that since, in my opinion, Yozakura, I don't know about you, Pyjams, I don't know how far back you are, Vex, with the manga, but in my
Well,
opinion, this has been like one of the strongest years for Yozakura.
let me
Like,
actually check. My last chapter was 169, and we are at 195, so quite a
Oh,
bit.
oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You've not even gone into the time skip stuff yet.
yeah. There's a whole like arc of stuff you don't know.
There,
And
there is.
actually,
I'll,
yeah,
yeah. So, what were you gonna say?
right. So I am glad you brought up the like success of the series because interestingly on other Discord servers, like there are some people like I've discussed with who aren't super fans of like the time skip arc, but like in Japan, it's clearly extremely popular with all the color pages we've been getting, and like of course the upcoming anime. So a lot of people are really liking what the series has, and to me it makes sense because uh, everything from before we kind of was setting up for this, and now we have like some brand new stories and things to explore, and so the series has like pretty bright future ahead as it stands. So yeah, this is a good time to talk about um new people coming in through the anime and what we can expect from the manga going forward. Although I guess one of the difficulties with that is, well, we don't want to spoil Vex on too much.
Yeah, I don't know how much do you actually know of the time skip Vex.
I know
So
there's a wedding going on right now. I know there's children.
yeah. So
Like I'm
slice.
not too concerned about spoilers because
Oh,
the
okay,
next thing I'm reading, I just caught up with Sakamoto Days.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's gonna be
okay.
good.
Um,
I think
yeah,
Sakamoto's gonna be good too right now.
yeah, I'm, I tried reading Sakamoto, but for some reason I just couldn't get in. I just couldn't get into it. I don't know what it was. It was just something like. It's just one of those things where I'm like, I want to like this, but for some reason it's just not vibing with me.
Yeah,
I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just me.
it,
Um,
it it seems to be like one of those series where it either hits or it doesn't hit. Like originally, Yo's fan was that for me until I got to a certain point.
Oh
Um,
yeah. And basically, and I know a lot of people are like, when I say like, what's the point Yozakura gets good? I would say it's the point when Momo gets introduced, like when he's not fully introduced, but when you kind of like when you see the chapter of when he's like Tile trips up, he catches Tile, and then he's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry about that," and then you just see Tile just burst out like just bullets everywhere. It's like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that is the point where Yozakura like really stepped up, and that's like right at the end of its first year, which is like I think a good place to pick up because the
Yeah.
series was really hanging on a thread from before that point, but then after that point, it's been nonstop quality.
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of people are like, really like, oh, do we have to wait until chapter 40 for it? I'm like, seriously, if you can wait, because people are like, okay, when does One Piece get good? When does Hunter x Hunter get good? People say like, oh, what? They'll say One Piece is good from the start, but a lot of people say like One Piece really hits its stride when you get into the ground line. And when is that? Chapter 100. Hunter x Hunter, the first arc, that's pretty much the
Hmm.
same length as what was with Mission Yozakura family. So it's like if you can get past the initial stages of Hunter x Hunter and One Piece, you can get past the initial stages of Mission Yozakura. And full disclaimer for myself, it's not that the parts before chapter 40 are bad per se. It's just everything that comes after that. It's just so much more better because it really gets okay. It finds the story it wants to tell. It really balances the main cast well at that point, and you start getting into the lore of the series more so at that point.
Oh yeah. I think for me it was there was a moment during the train battle that was really like the hook for me, with the double page for Tayo's, using his weapon, and it just all the effects. I'm like, that's the moment I want animated for the first season. This would be perfect for an action sequence.
Yeah. That might come in the first, because we don't know how long the first season is going to be. It could be 12 episodes. If it's 12 episodes, I could see it going up to the mansion invasion.
Mhm.
But if it is like 24 episodes, I could definitely see it going up until the train battle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing I wanted to say is that this is not going to be a comparison to Spy X Family. We're not. What I don't. I wanted to save that for a separate video of like Mission Yozakura versus Spy X Family, but we're not. I don't want to do that in this video. Like Spy X Family can be its own thing. It's just mainly going to be talking about Mission Yozakura because that just opens up a whole nother can of worms in of itself.
I
I will be
mean,
curious how the anime will like bring about those comparisons when it comes out.
it's 100% going to be compared, and I mean, sort of rightfully so, because they do initially kind of fit into that same genre, but I feel like Spy Family lost the plot a long time ago, whereas Mission Yozakura Family kind of knows what the hell it wants to be now. And there was a point where I'm like, does this series really have an idea what it was going to be? And then it slowly started like building into what it is today, and it's the better version of that.
Yeah. And one thing I feel like really works as well with this series, and I alluded to a few minutes ago, is that just the insane amount of variety in the main cast. Because like anybody who's watched this on screen now, this is pretty much the main cast of the series. So like the entire family, and they all get equal amounts of screen time. Well, some get more screen time than others, but I'd say it's more balanced than a lot of other series. Like I feel like a lot of people would prefer if they got more Nanano, the guy with the bucket on his head, as opposed to Koricho. And that's the thing that's going to be like a worry for me, like Koricho in the series.
Oh God.
I mean, it's an anime. He's not like a rare trope. But so I think it'll be fine, but it won't be until very, very late in the story where people will start to like him.
Yeah, if that, like, I know someone who someone on Twitter who's just like upset, probably more obsessed with him as a character than others. Like, you know who I'm probably referring to.
Oh God, please
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, you know the person I'm probably referring to, but yeah, the one point that I feel like made Koricho, maybe like Koricho, was what he did in the chapters that were released last year, when it was like basically that was the year of Koricho, because we had him fighting the previous heads of the Yozakura family, which I still want an update on that. Like what is going on with those other
We're
heads?
never getting more on that. They are just gone at this point.
No, they have to come back at some point.
We had a whole time skip.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, here's the thing. The only way I can see him coming back is if when we deal with the final antagonist, I like he may still have them in reserve. Like they could come back at that point, but I don't see them coming back sooner than that, honestly.
Okay, fair enough. But I'd still like to know like more about them, like because one of the major criticisms that I've had, well, it's not really a major criticism about the series, it's just a minor nitpick on my front, is because it does seem like Mutsumi's generation and the generation we're in right now, and like what we've got moving forward with the new generation. Now it just sound like a promotion for Star Trek, except with
The new next generation XD.
Yeah. But my main gripe is like it seems like the 10th generation and the 11th generation is Oh, hiya, Red Dragon, Emperor. Yeah, my main is that they seem to be the only generation that have siblings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
that we know of. And I mean, there is a sort of story explanation we get for that. But of course, Luke discussed in his review videos, and I agree that this wedding chapter that we're having kind of opens the doors towards like the question of can the other siblings have children?
yeah, because that's always been a major issue with major question I've had with the series. Like, is Mutsumi the only one that can actually have children?
And I mean, the thing I had issues with the heads was like at the beginning, we did get to like learn about who each of them were and their connections to the current generation, almost as if they were gonna like be mentors to them at one point in time. But then, like they just, I'm not sure if it was the editors or this was just what the mangaka wanted from the beginning, but the story just picked up, and then we just had like Koichiro just deal with all of them at once, which I mean, it was a cool moment for his character and for Tayo as well, but it kind of like undercut like the whole setup they had. So yeah.
Yeah. And going back to Koricho, favorite, like and one of the major points that made me like him was when Kai was introduced. And it's just like, if you look at Kai and look at Tayo, they are, there's so much I like about them. Like, it's scary. Like, they both were involved in accidents. They're both connected to a member of the Yozakura family. They've both been trained by members of the Yozakura family, and they're both now like top ranks. It's just scary how similar those two characters are.
Yeah, and I had plenty of theories at the time, but it seemed like those theories ended up exactly what happened with my Chelsea theory.
When you thought Chelsea and Doctor Stone was going to be a antagonist,
secret antagonist. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm still mad about that one. One day I did want to think about like doing that as a topic, just like Doctor Stone theories I had that just didn't come to fruition.
That would be something that I would be quite interested in, because I really ride the theory of like, oh, we're gonna go to Europe. No, we don't. No.
Yeah,
that was a series that every theory the fans had just went down the toilet immediately.
Yeah.
But at least the main ones like came through. Like, what's the identity of the secret and final antagonist?
Yeah. Props to Mad Pat for getting that right.
Oh yeah, like honestly, because he's really wrong about so much that it's like,
right.
wow, he got this one
But
years
the fact
everybody gets one.
Yeah, he gets that one. But yeah. My initial reaction to like Kai and Creature's relationship, I'm like, are they actually in a relationship? That's my main question, because it does seem like they have like that that connection that goes beyond being just friends.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I remember you brought that up before. I mean, it's at this point just in fan canon, and I don't know if like a character like him has like any other like relationships set up. Like even Futaba has a more set up same sex partner in the future.
Yeah,
that's like way more explicit.
But yeah, but my main theory about the whole Kai and Koricho relationship is that this is probably why Koricho tolerates Tayo to to an almost like he wants to go bold early. The fact that I have to put with this guy because he reminds me of my best friend. So that's probably the only reason why he kept Tayo alive all this time. But Koricho, I'm just gonna say you are a complete idiot because little minor spoiler for the time skip, because even after the time skip, Koricho is still trying to kill Tayo, and I'm just there thinking like, Koricho, you do remember the rule: you cannot kill family. That was set up in chapter 1. Killing in the family is against the rules, and yet you're still trying to kill him.
Yeah, and Red Dragon, I think we're in agreement with you. He's probably not going to be in a relationship, but like Luke said, the only one that's theoretically possible at this point is Kai.
Yeah. Unless Kai does turn out to be a secret antagonist after all, because we haven't seen him since the time skip. But
True,
now that
he might be at the wedding though.
he
'Cause,
might.
we were talking about that in your review that just went up. That there's a bunch of people. I actually almost missed that panel when I was talking online about like all those characters that are just kind of like as wedding guests.
Yeah, but I
might be there.
Yeah, but I recognize some of that. Like, obviously, I recognize Rin because she has like the big coat that she always wears. So that was one that I instantly recognized. Like, oh, Rin's there. We haven't seen her in since the time skip. But granted, it's only been like 25 chapters, so it's been good half a year since the time skip. So the fact that it's just gone by so quickly, that's amazing to me. But yeah, so
I'm also excited Sosuke's coming back. I think I've mentioned he's like one of my favorites.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have been. I know a lot of people have been like a little bit disappointed because that is something I would agree with the series, is that it focuses. It's kind of like in the same way with One Piece, is that it focuses primarily on like the main core cast, that so that a lot of the times it doesn't leave room for a lot of the supporting characters to be as developed as they should be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think people on our server have mentioned that too. I want to say SkyZed, but I don't remember if it was him. Might have been someone else too. But yeah, I think that's a fair criticism of the series, because it does do a good job with its core cast, but it also only does a good job with the core cast. And I guess that actually transitions to something I want to say about the anime, which is that I'm very much looking forward to like seeing like a lot of those side characters from the early chapters in the anime adaptation, because I've forgotten so much about them. Their stories were kind of important at one point, but now they just like don't show up like ever.
Yeah, and that I forget is it, but the police officer that's pretty much an Asawa clone from My Hero Academia. I really want to see him again.
Yeah, I'm blanking on his name too, but yeah,
you know who I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah, and also the show obviously as well, and Sosuke, I just think his chops is going to be funny. Like, I'm trying to be noticed here, but I can't. But nobody's noticing me. I'm just looking forward to seeing him again. So yeah, I guess the other thing that we could talk about is the antagonist as well, because we mentioned Momo, but before we get to Momo, we've got to get through Tampopo, which is going to be like the main driving force for probably the first, if it gets to season 2, for seasons 1 and 2 of the anime. Now, I know you weren't the biggest fan of like the Tampopo people in back in the day, Fex. You compared them to like the standard mustachioed twirling villain.
I mean, they are. Like, it seems so completely Saturday morning cartoonish. I don't know why they had a lot of the like grunt level BS going on, and it was the most anticlimactic final battle at the time. It just like, oh, and we're done. Like, like no real resolution whatsoever. It just like
I can't say I agree or disagree. I'm kind of in a bit of 50-50 here, because I honestly liked most of the fights that were presented there, primarily because we got fully introduced to the power system of Yozakura family, the Blooming, which I love the Blooming power system in this series.
Oh yeah, it's probably one of the better ones in Modern Jump.
Yeah. I think
that was the big like plus for this like first little bit here, is it was building up both the world and that power system, especially leading up to like the Tampopo stuff. But like for that to be the showcase of it, just like it fits, but at the same time, like I wish it would have been more fluid, this bit, like that whole arc. And I'm hoping that like the anime flushes it out a little bit, kind of like what the Bleach Thousand Year Blood War anime is doing with a lot of the fights, kind of giving them more like anime original choreography and trying to fix bits of the story that were kind of left open. And I think it would work better that way. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I pretty much agree with you there. Like, I want to see more expansion on some of these fights, but the one fight I don't want to expand in is the train fight. I feel like that fight is just perfect in almost every way. But some of the fights, like the final fight with Kawashita, I feel like could be expanded a little bit more. But I feel like that may be down to the fact that because Yozakura is a good balance of slice of life and action, and I feel like the action would work much better in an anime format. Like, can you imagine when we get to the panel when Tao just charges up his weapon and just slashes the snake woman on the train with that weapon? How that would look in an anime format?
Oh yeah. I feel like that arc. I have the same feelings for a lot of that I did for Goldie Pond and Promise Neverland. Like, it's made for anime.
Oh my god! That I will never forget. I will never understand why they couldn't adapt that.
Because they wanted to make a shitty gacha game.
No! Please, anybody working on the Yozakura anime, don't do that for Yozakura.
Like, I don't mind if they make a game. I really don't. I just don't lock an entire arc behind it. Like, there's so much stupidity in the production of that anime that killed it. That's why the meme is like, there's no season 2. I don't want that to be the fate of Yo's fam, like, at all.
Yeah. I'm still gonna credit myself for being the one that's keeping that meme alive. There's no Promised Neverland season 2. It was a fever dream that everybody had at the same time.
Like, it's half of the Promised Neverland subreddit. The other half is still sending me death threats.
Yeah.
How dare you criticize the manga? That's not like it was your job.
Yeah. But I've got to ask you two, which blooming are you most looking forward to actually seeing in an anime format?
I mean, it's got to be cute. Koichiro's. Like, how it was used. Like, that's insane one.
Like,
I like Koichiro's, and I really want to see how they animate Futaba's.
Oh yeah, because I'm on the wiki now. I cannot pronounce this. The name of her blooming Magna Meat. How?
I'm not even gonna fucking try.
No, me neither.
But basically, for anyone watching, is that her ability allows her to neutralize her opponent's attack. So it's basically negate attack from Yu-Gi-Oh. But the fact that she uses that in conjunction with like her kinetic energy that she has and her martial arts skills, that just makes for some terrifying attacks that she can do. And plus the fact that she's like, I would say, if I was going to compare it to one character, Tatsumaki from One Punch Man.
Yeah, that fits.
Yeah, because she's the lolly character, but she could kick your ass. Like, she's my favorite character in the series. I'm just going to say that right now. And I loved her the moment I saw when she like picked Koichiro up by his tie in the first chapter and just was like, I'm going to slam you into this table right now, and basically does that. I was just like, oh my god, this character is so cool.
Oh yeah. I like her and I like Kingo. Like, those are my two favorites. But I love Catboy, Catgirl style characters, and I love the Femboy style characters. So Kingo just fits.
Yeah, Kingo just fits. And also as well, his is quite good. His bloom in the ability. Was it a simulate or adaptation? No, that adaptation is Nano's simulate that. Why do so many of them have to have the same sounding name? A simulation annihilation adaptation.
Everything starts with A.
Yeah, but yeah, no, his is a simulation, basically, which fits his character because he's like the disguise assassin, so able to assimilate anybody and anyone. So that fits, and that can just throw people for a loop as well. Like, oh, I'm gonna dress up as Tile. Nope, it's not Tile. It's actually me. But yeah, I feel like Karicho's, if we ever get to that point of Karicho's blooming, that is going to be one of like probably the most, because that blooming is actually very terrifying if you think about it. Just because it's basically the first stage of Yamamoto's Bonkai in Bleach. Like anything that touches his void gets completely incinerated out of existence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just the fact that it doesn't discriminate as well, the fact that he has to use a shield to protect the family from it, that just makes it even more scary, which begs the question, how did Kai survive that when he used it on the ship? I'm never going to understand that.
Wasn't Alex also on the ship?
Yeah, Alex and Kai were on the ship, and I'm just like, how on earth did they survive that?
You know what? Maybe we'll figure out that at the wedding arc. They're like, hey, how'd you guys like not die when I did that thing?
Yeah, I'm gonna put armor, Karicho. Yeah. Just put armor. But yeah, after Tampopo, we get properly introduced to Momo, and I feel like this was the point where everyone was just starting to sit up and pay attention with the Yozakura villains, because, well, people would say, yeah, Tampopo was okay. Momo just like basically came along and was like, oh, you think they were okay? Well, I'm gonna tell you something, and just like how insane he was throughout his story arc.
Worst dad in anime/manga. Endeavor, Shao Tucker, or Momo.
No. There is someone worse than Momo, in my opinion.
And we'll get
to him because it's the one after Momo. Like, you think Momo's worse? Like, but yeah, Momo.
Yeah, I was actually trying to remember if Vex had met that character yet or not. Because Vex had to have because it was right after Karicho used his blooming, and I'm assuming you've seen that one, right, Vex?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, yeah. So yeah. Okay.
So you've seen, but yeah, Momo. Just the fact that he has the split personality, we got quite a bit of lore with it. Like, that was when we were really getting into the lore of the history of the family, and just the feel of the fact that he's not actually a real person, but a clone of Tsubumi, the original creator of the Yozakura family. That was something I did not see coming when I first read that. Like, because I thought Momo was just like a normal human being that just went batshit bonkers. But no, the fact that he's connected to Tsubumi in that way, that was a really interesting twist that I thought they did really well. But that begs the question of how can he have a blooming if he's connected to Tsubumi in that way?
Oh, I mean, you mean like because he couldn't have accepted like the blooming from his partner, his wife?
Yeah, because he's already.
Well, I mean, he could still awaken his own blooming, though, right?
Because
he doesn't need to do that.
If he's already connected to Tsubumi in the fact that he has the Yozakura blood in him, like he's born from basically Tsubumi's blood, so therefore he has the Yozakura blood in him. Shouldn't he already have a blooming without having to have give him her blood to activate it?
Yeah, so I think he just awakened his own.
Huh. But then why would she need to give him her blood to activate it?
Did she? Do we have any confirmation she did?
Yeah, she did. She did. In I'll find the because it was explained that he did give Momo and Ri Yozakura.
Okay. Well, while you're looking up that, I guess we can talk a little about what's going on in the manga. I'll keep it somewhat vague to minimize spoilers for our other host here. But like right now, what's going on is all the siblings after the time skip are coming back together, and the next generation, which are like the kids, the twins, they are basically like learning how to like use their abilities and work together, and that's kind of to train them up before we to see if they can come and deal with Asa. And like something Luke and I were discussing before was if during or right after this wedding arc, if Asa will be coming into it, because it feels like there's a lot of like strings being pulled for like this wedding, especially with all these other characters showing up. And so I'm going to be curious about that. My current prediction though is that Asa is not like really that involved with the wedding, but I think he might crash it. I could see that possibly happening because it feels like we have to
So
move pretty quickly into dealing with him. Because all the siblings will have been, all the family will have been reunited after the wedding arc.
okay, so as somebody that's not current, is he like puppet mastering it to like a Sosuke Aizen level, or do you think he's just waiting to strike like a long game Madara style?
Well, actually, that's an interesting thing you asked because, like, something that sort of instigated everything that's going on right now, like not just the wedding, but like just the siblings having to reunite, was a hit put out on the Yozakura. I think that's fine to tell you. And like one of the things that we were talking about, like when that was happening, when the time skip just happened, was that okay? Was this Asa's doing? Because Asa did say he was, because he's been like quiet for the past couple years, obviously, but he did say he was going to be like more involved in their lives at one point. So
Right, I
what we
remember
were
that
wondering
much.
is like, did Asa put out this hit himself or someone associated with him? And like one of the things I predicted, and I think Luke agreed with me, was that Asa isn't really the kind of person who would need to like put out a hit. Like that's something more like Tanpopo would kind of do. They kind of had like people indirectly associated with them doing their dirty work. But
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
Asa
yes.
didn't seem like he would be like, okay, I need to like put a hit out on these
Yeah,
people.
so there's the prevailing theory at the moment that there's more than it's not just Asa that's behind it. Like there's like an entire group of people called the Zodiacs. And the theory that a lot of people have to back this up is because throughout the series you get like little hints throughout it because you see like symbols that relate to the Chinese Zodiac. So like the tiger, the snake, because obviously we've had the white-haired snake woman, and and on I think it's on Rin's body. There's like a tiger symbol. So that's
No, I
like
think Alex was supposed to. Oh no, he's the dragon. Never mind.
yeah. So that yeah, because his name has dragon in it.
Yeah, Ryu.
So that's the preparing theory that there's like a group, the Zodiacs, who are Asa may be maybe a part of it. He may not, but it seems to be leaning more towards that theory. The more we get into this part of the series, because it does seem to feel, for me personally, like in the past when Asa was revealing the backstory on him and how he was the Yozakuras before they became the Yozakuras were a clan working for the emperor of Japan, who I believe they got kicked out. Wasn't that part of the backstory?
Yeah, I believe
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So I feel like this might be a case of like the emperor of Japan might actually be the final antagonist.
Oh God.
Yeah. But
But
yeah,
of course, this is all just like fan theories. Of
yeah,
course.
this is all just kind of the fan phase. Oh, and by the way, I did find the panel, and yeah, I was wrong. She does say my blood will boost your blooming, so it didn't awaken his blooming; it just boosted it. Yeah. So
That's
in
not
regards to
Yeah,
Momo,
which makes sense.
yeah, which makes sense considering how powerful Momo's blooming is. It's like the only two that were able to resist it somewhat were Tile and Karichiro.
Mhm.
Everyone else got like put under a spell. I'm just like, let's go into this dream world and be happy whilst being piled on a mountain of corpses.
Oh man,
Yeah.
the Momo arc was so good.
That
Yozakura hit like a new peak when he came.
Yeah. But then after Momo, we've just talked about it, we get introduced to Asa, and if you think Momo was worse, Dad, Asa just really takes the cake. And a lot of people, and this is why I really want people, because we haven't really talked about like what is so amazing about Yozakura, the fact that because it's so underrated, but it's been able to survive so long. But I feel like if people just read it and got to the point with Asa explaining his backstory and explaining what he did to Tsubumi, I feel like people would just be like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, but of course that's a pretty heavy investment.
Yeah.
I mean, because right now a lot of people in a different series in Jump, Undead Unluck say, if people got to the point with the time skip that's happened there, where the story is just like consistently good, like it would be selling a lot more. And I'm like, yeah, but that's a lot.
Yeah, and that's a discussion for another day of Undead Unluck's time skip. But yeah, every time I've shown this panel to people, they've been like, "What the actual hell is the series?" Where you have him basically explaining how he mutilated his own daughter, and he did that over probably over like 100 times as a result of it, because Tsubumi is immortal. I feel like that's pretty much, she's immortal, and the fact that she's immortal, you can do that over and over again. Like using, I feel like the one part that made me sick to my stomach with him was when he said one of her eyeballs brewed into a potion could bring sight back to thousands. I'm just like, Jesus Christ!
All right. Jesus.
Yeah. So he's definitely not winning Father of the Year.
Not at all. God.
Yeah. And just the fact that he was able to do that in and explain all of that in 3 chapters, and and the fact that when he's showcasing just how, and just the fact that he has this blank, soulless expression on his face, that's what makes him scary to me.
Oh yeah, like his expression when he was first introduced was like the most terrifying jump scare of a panel. I do not understand what was going through the author's freaking head when he created that, but it looks like your indie horror villain.
Yeah, and it was this panel.
To put it.
Yeah, it was this panel that just made me truly scared of him. I'm gonna post it in the Discord in the mod stuff.
Okay.
So it was that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Midsummer, anyone?
Yeah, there is a reason why I made that one of the thumbnails for one of my reviews, because that is the face of nightmares.
I saw that. I just freaking, I'm like, why, Luke? This is something I would do for a thumbnail.
I know, like, but I couldn't pass on that because I literally like Momo. No, not Momo. Asa is still scary. That's basically what I called it. Yeah, but
pants shittingly horrifying.
Yeah. But yeah. So people, if you haven't given Mission Yozakura a chance, I'd say really give it a chance.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys, because this is definitely, like, I would say there's an argument for Witch Watch as well, because that for some reason doesn't get the physical volumes. So
yeah, well, over here, obviously in Japan they get them, but
yeah, obviously over there they get them. But I want to ask you guys, like, why do you think people just sleep on Mission Yozakura Family?
So, well, one, I do want to say that in terms of physical volumes in other places, I'm not sure if that's always just because a series is not selling super well, because I swear we have physical volumes of other series that got
Red Hood over here.
We have physical volumes for Red Hood and Samurai 8.
And then, like, I know a series that I really enjoyed that recently got a new chapter translated was Talentless Nana, but it's through Crunchyroll, and Crunchyroll doesn't release physical volumes of their series that they have exclusive license to, but France does, which is weird. But anyway, well, the reason I'm bringing that up is because I don't know if the physical volumes are purely because people are sleeping on it, but in terms of why it's not as big in Japan, I think much like I brought up in Dead Unluck earlier, is that the series does take a little bit to get into its stride. Because like in the early parts of the story, it was pretty low in the table of contents, and it was mostly just because there were like definitively worse series out there that got axed before, that the series managed to survive. That and the fact that I think it did manage to hit its stride once given enough time. This is like one of the success stories of if you gave a manga enough time, it will reach its potential. But I think the other thing is that the existence of other similar series. I mean, Spy Family is, of course, the big one, where you have a slice of life family / spy story, which is selling so much better. And I think when you have like similar series, like things will just get ignored just because there's something to already kind of fill the niche. And like this, it is a niche when it comes to like the kind of thing that Yozakura is doing, which is kind of what surprised me with like Spy Family being as popular as it is. I mean, it's getting like a whole video game on Switch that was released announced in a direct, and I'm like, okay, I guess it's big enough for that.
I was like, what the? When I saw that, I was like, seriously, like this, but not something like Dr. Stone.
Yeah, that's also weird. But I mean, at least Dr. Stone has like a gotcha game or something.
Yeah, but can you imagine? Can you imagine like a Dr. Stone console built Kingdom of Science simulation game where you go around and build up the Kingdom of Science yourself?
I mean, yeah, that would be great. But yeah, I don't know.
You're
Why
describing like the Altair games, basically.
Yeah, I think Thurman brought that up, and I think he's right. It's like the perfect format. But yeah, the other, I think I had one more other thing with Yozakura. Yeah, I think the other thing is just that like it is, of course, still like an action gag series, and there's others big action gag series that were just in the magazine at the time.
Like
But
Roboco.
Right, but that's also mostly just gag. I was thinking more in the lines of things like Sakamoto,
Yeah,
and Kill Blue, and probably some other things that were around before they ended, because a bunch of series ended in this decade. But
Jesus Christ, like
it still surprises me though, just because other series like Sakamoto and Kill Blue came out after Yozakura, but seem to have stronger initial starts at least. So I really do think the initial start is probably the biggest thing. Like you need to win people over like fairly quickly. And maybe an anime can turn around, because there's no way Demon Slayer would be as big as it was if it wasn't for what Ufotable did. So
yeah, Ufotable and influencers.
Oh, absolutely. Like when people are just tweeting the last
Episode
2 minutes, the last 2 minutes of it, because I watched like I've not watched or read a lot of Demon Slayer, but people are like, episode 19 is absolute peak. It's gonna be the balls bit, and I'm just there sitting there like thinking like, what is this? What is this? Okay, those last 2 minutes were pretty cool, but what was before it?
Yeah, it's a lot of like the hype culture that we live in that's kind of carried a lot of this generation's anime. And it's a double-edged sword, because you get things that really don't, theoretically deserve the spotlight, overshadowing a lot of the more, well-written series, solely because pretty lights and colors, turn monkey brain on. And we've talked our asses blue about it before, so I'm not going to rehash that too much, but it's an unfortunate reality of like the social media and hype culture.
Yeah.
Red Dragon saying that it did trend on Japan Twitter when the anime got announced.
Yeah, that is nice. True. So I'm hoping that, and like you said earlier, it is more popular in Japan than it is the West. But I think when I say it's not like popular, is just relative to other Jump series. Because yeah, of course, Jump magazine series are going to be much bigger than like some smaller magazines out there that release series. I mean, I follow series that have way less popularity, where I swear there's like 12 people reading the thing, myself included. And for those series, you really got to like be an active part of the fandom to keep the fandom alive. But Yozakura definitely won't have that level of problems. But I think when you're in the major leagues like Shonen Jump, you kind of want to see your favorite series like do better, like than at least the newbies that come around, because that's always a little disheartening when you see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's another thing I want to get into with people saying like, oh, we've got One Piece probably ending in the next couple of years, which based on the where the manga is right now, yeah, it's probably going to be, if not 2025, at least the end of 2026. That's probably going to be ending. We've got Black Clover, who's no longer in the magazine. We've got My Hero, which Horikoshi, just end that already. And then we've got JJ.
I want to at least throw him this much. I think honestly, the series would have been done like sometime near the end of this year if it wasn't for the fact that he's been having like some issues with his health. Because there were chapters that were like 9 pages, 11 pages, and that's just because that's the best he could do. And so I do want to give him some slack there. It's like he could have finished his series. He's just physically like limited himself. I don't think it's like the editors like stopping him. I think it's actually just the universe.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, so we got those.
But he really should do what Tabata did and just like switch to like a monthly series.
Yeah, like switch to a monthly series maybe for the last 10 chapters of My Hero Academia and end it that way. But also JJK, which is probably going to be ending in the next couple of years. So people are like,
I mean, it's ended for a lot of people with the last chapter.
I saw that and I'm just thinking like, okay, wait until he's revived and everyone bitching about that.
Nah, but I really don't think it'll happen. I mean, that's a whole discussion for another day.
Yeah,
but right now that's not happening. Something else I think that people are predicting might happen, but yeah.
Yeah, but point is that you've got these
Gojo puppet.
Yeah, you got these series.
Well, more like a reincarnation, but yeah.
Yeah. But my point is like you got all these series ending, and people are gonna be like, "It's the death of Weekly Shonen Jump because these popular series are ending." And I'm like, if you actually took the time to read things other than the popular series, you'll realize, oh, okay, this is actually pretty good because
make it stop, people. There's more than just action series. God.
Because Witch Watch, I feel like has had one of its strongest arcs at the moment with this last arc that it's gone through.
Absolutely, it's like the big climactic arc that we've been building up to.
That people think like, oh, the series is going to end now. I'm like, nope, the series cannot end until until Nemu's in the house. I am still waiting for that moment.
Nemu is never getting in the house just to spite Luke.
She is gonna get. When she gets in that house, I'm saying this right now on stream. When she gets into the house, I am reviewing that chapter. I don't care. I am reviewing that chapter.
That's the only thing that's stopping Luke from reviewing Witch Watch.
Well, no, the only thing that's stopping me from reviewing Witch Watch is because I don't want to like over like bloat myself with saying like Yozakura. I'm fine doing that weekly. But then when that ends, it's either going to be Witch Watch or 100 Girlfriends that I'm probably going to review.
No, Luke, you got to do 100 Girlfriends. I think you would be the only channel that does 100 Girlfriends.
I really want to do 100 Girlfriends because that series is just as wild as some of the as wild as Witch Watch, if not wilder. But yeah, so we got Witch Watch, Yozakura, we've got Sakamoto Days, we've got Akane Banashi, and coming up from the newbies, we've got Kill Bill. So we've got 5 series that are really coming in that have either coming to the Shred or starting to come into the Shred.
You're forgetting one. It's Kagurabachi. That's going to be the savior of Shonen Jump, Luke.
Do not get me started. I had Sky said giving me crap for that on Discord. I'm not
I
prepared
saw.
and I'm just
I mean, you kind of got that one.
I kind of deserve that one, but at the same time, it's like, come on, it's like
You've turned into me shitting on Undead Unlock, but with Kagurabachi.
I know I have, and I'm just like it's really nothing special. If it's doing the same plot beat that started off with Elusive Samurai and Jinkishi X.
I mean, a revenge plotline is pretty common, but I also don't think that by itself like disproves the series will be good. I think what like this series, man, this is again a whole other topic. I think what this series is like doing is the fact that it is doing a standard shonen story where most of the standard shonen are like ending, because we have like Black Clover out of the magazine, a bunch of like the bigger stuff like going to be ending soon.
JJK.
So
then-
this series is more like closer to Demon Slayer, honestly, with its power system and its world building, actually. And I think that's why it has a good chance of succeeding. Because like there's so many different series now with like Kill Blue and Witch Watch and Akane that if anything, a series that's kind of doing more of the same, if done well, could thrive, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah, but again, that circles back to the point of like, oh, it's doing traditional shonen stuff. That's what Mission Yozakura is doing. The battle stuff. It's doing world building. That's what Mission Yozakura is doing. It's doing power. That's what Mission Yozakura is doing.
But theoretically, how much longer could Mission Yozakura family continue?
That's actually another thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
for this
because yeah, I've always said that 300 to 350 would be like the ideal point for Mission Yozakura family.
So about another 2-ish years, give or take.
Yeah.
And I think it could even end a little sooner, just because like recently, and I don't consider this one much of a spoiler, so I'm just gonna say it. Like we had like this one like goofy chapter where the kids like took Nanano's, like make me bigger potions that he uses. And you got to see basically their adult versions. And in my mind, that's like the story's way of saying, it's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get to the point where I get to tell their stories as when they get to the age of their parents when they started the series. But if I don't, you kind of know what they're going to look like.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that's my way of understanding the author's like, yeah, I could, after Asa, I could just end the story. But
And he could.
as Luke and I mentioned, there are other potential villains in the background, maybe the Zodiacs, maybe some international stuff, because America has been brought up a couple times. And one of these days, one of these series that just likes to bring up, it's like what's going on in America needs to actually do something with it.
Look,
Vibration Man just did that in its last chapter. It's like, oh, the American president is aware of our main character and his superpowers. It's like, okay, but does that matter?
Yeah, and going back to Nanano in the times, we've just had like this mini arc with Nanano where they trekked through Europe to go and find him. So the fact that we could have like spies from Paris as well.
Oh God, that's a little bit more uncommon.
Yeah, because they do go to Paris for a few chapters.
Yeah, and I think that was a good location pick because outside of like America, I think like the next biggest like out of Asia country that's like big into manga is like France.
Yeah.
So that was a good pick for location.
Yeah. So yeah, theoretically there could be more fairs, but if you wanted to end it with Asa, I would respect it. I would respect him either way if you did that. Like he's got what I do respect more about authors is when they're like, no, if I feel like I've told the story that I want to tell, I'm gonna end it.
Yeah. And I mean, with that little design with the get big potion, you have the art for like an extra chapter, even for a final volume. Like here's here's a quick little story about them when they're adults. Done.
Yeah. And also as well, it's gonna. I feel like the final chapter will reveal like the, because another minor spoiler is that they're not going to be like the twin girl is not going to be the next head of the Yozakura family. Like it's confirmed 100% that that's not going to be happening. So it might end with the birth of the next head of the Yozakura family after Mutsumi.
Yeah. I mean, boom. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, they also do have to address, because Koichiro brought it up, that the kids having purple hair is like super weird, apparently, or something like that.
Which doesn't make any sense, because they're basically
Like, look at everyone's hair colors, like in the picture Luke has here.
Yeah, and also as well, the fact that Mutsumi's hair color is blue, Tao's hair color is red. That's what you get when you mix them together.
Yeah, but then the Koichiro's like, something's off here. It's like, no, this is just color theory. What are you talking about? And then,
this series brought to you by Pulp Riot Hair Color.
By the way, something else I wanted to bring up, because we've not talked about we've talked about him briefly, but Best Boy Shinzo is going to be compared to Deku in some way when the anime comes out, because of the fact that
if literally daddy,
because of the fact that he's guns blazing, but at the same time he's probably the most socially awkward out of the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think there's like better Deku like equivalents. Like recently I was telling you guys I was watching Zom 100 because the series went on indefinite hiatus. So I'm like, great, perfect time to catch up. And like there were moments where the main character, it felt like, wow, this would be like if Deku, but I cared about his character.
But also as well, there's one thing Hiya Minso from the Yozakura Discord server. But yeah, there's one thing about Shinzo that I brought up in one of my reviews when it happened, and Party Jones, when I brought it up, you could not stop looking at it. It's the fact that there's the chapter where Shinzo has to be like a bodybuilder on stage, and he's just like, I can't do this. And Shinzo's just like, oh, do it for me, be the big brother for me. And you see him with like underwear that have the eyes of Goliath the dog that are literally spying on him all the time.
Yeah, I do remember that now that you said it. And yeah, Minso, we did bring up Zodiac theory a little earlier.
We did bring up the Zodiac theory. But that begs the question, like, how old is Goliath?
Yeah, I mean, because remember Dr. Stone with all the time skips, we were like, oh man, is Chalk gonna live through all this? Somehow he did, but the Dr. Stone fandom kept trying to figure out their age.
Well, to be fair, I'm just like thinking, because Chalk in Dr. Stone, it's like a Shiba, isn't it? Yeah,
Shiba Inu.
How long did they live for? Shiba
a decent while, like, but he would have to be very young still, like at the beginning. It's so possible. We did the math.
Yeah, Shiba. You said Shiba Inu.
Yeah.
So okay, so they 12 to 15 years. So let's say he's like 1 at the beginning of the series. He probably would be about 14 by the end of the series.
Yeah, exactly. It's theoretically possible, but he would have to have been a literal baby.
Yeah, but then when we get to the point where in the one shot after, he's probably dead at that point.
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends how long that was from the end of the story.
Well, I'm talking about like, because we have a time skip to many years later, so I'm not talking about the final chapter. I'm talking about everything before that. So in the final chapter, Chalk is probably dead.
Wait, you mean you're talking about like the epilogue chapter we got afterwards, right?
No, I'm talking about the final chapter because it says a few years later when that one. So that's what I'm referring to. Like, Chalk's probably dead at that point.
I mean, yeah, probably.
Yeah,
but at least we didn't have to see it. We were also wondering if Kaseki was gonna make it, but then the Medusa exists, so it's fine. How old is Goliath? That's the big question I want to know. Yeah, I mean, Goliath is like at least a weird kind of breed of dog. So he can live as long as he needs to, and we can just say, yeah, we have weird spy science.
Unless Nanano developed a drug that makes him immortal.
Yeah, exactly. We can just do that.
Yeah, because he's
so it's not
Nanano.
as big a deal as in Dr. Stone, is all I was saying.
Yeah, fair enough. But one of the best things that I think happened with this series, which I am so happy that they've kept that throughout the series, is after the Tampo Prague, I joining the family.
Yeah, they did do that.
Yeah, I just love the fact that they brought her into the family and not
even gave I some chapters.
Oh yeah. That was one of the best things about when we had that week, because we had chapter 100 and then we had 100B, which was basically just an I chapter. And what I love most about that is like you get so much development from that character in just 3 or 4 chapters after she joins the family. You get more development with her than a certain other character in a certain other spy series. Throughout the whole series, you know which one who I'm referring to.
Oh God,
yeah.
I had to circle back to shitting on Spy Family.
It did.
Even though we said it in the beginning.
But that's the only. Okay, that's my only shitting on Spy Family card I'm gonna play there.
Okay, I have to dig into one thing here, and it is a comparison because it's going to happen. Damn good and well, the Kichiro and Yuri are going to get compared to High Hell for their tendencies for being a little bit too overprotective of their sisters.
Yeah. Although I would have compared it more, and I've said this before, like when Yozakura family comes out as the anime, they're going to be like campaigning for death battles, and one of my popular ones would be Illumi from Hunter x Hunter versus Kirichiro.
I'd love to see that actually, and I don't give a shit about death battle.
Yeah, and I've actually done the maths with Tyler of like who would actually win, and we both came into an agreement that Illumi might be a bit faster than Kirichiro. I feel like because Kirichiro is immune to poisons and the fact that he has his blooming, I feel like that would give him the edge.
Yeah, probably. Like,
I don't know about you, Party Jams. You've read Hunter x Hunter, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I'm fully caught up on Hunter.
Yeah, so I don't know how fair you would say that statement is. Like, would you say Kirichiro Illumi's faster than Kirichiro? Because Kirichiro is pretty fast. I think
Illumi has the speed, but I think because of the blooming, that Kirichiro has that edge.
Like Illumi's like ability basically involves like a lot of mind control effects. Like he's a scary antagonist for sure, but like Kirichiro is definitely more of like a singular, like if Illumi's power is basically like I can defeat you because I can like have my own puppet army as I need. Koichiro is definitely more of like it's incredibly strong on my own. The only thing that's kind of hard to power scale is because we have like Nen and like versus like blooming, and then when you have like power systems across series, it's always hard to compare like exactly how they would interact with each other. Because you would think that like with the ability of Nen by itself, you can just kind of like mess up people who don't have Nen, but then other people would make the argument that, well, you have to treat equivalent power systems as if they would be the same in each verse. So like as if having blooming would be the same as having Nen or something like that. So anyway, I think that if I had to pick, I feel like Illumi might win just because he's actually more terrifying. But I think Koichiro's like biggest advantage, like Vex said, was his blooming, which if he was willing to pull that out, then that's his best shot of winning.
Yeah, well, considering that it would just be 1-on-1, he could just like whip that out, and if Illumi had, like, he could just get Illumi, call his Steel Spider, and then use the blooming if he really wanted to.
Yeah, I can't really think of a way Lumi could counter that really. So I guess you'd be right. I guess the only thing is like if what I was saying with Nen, because if you use Nen on people without Nen, you can like really mess them up big without doing much. So yeah, that's the other factor if we had to take it really seriously.
Yeah.
But then this is one of the things I'm not really a death battle guy because it's like, I feel like if you take things to the utmost seriousness, like there are certain characters who are just like, they're just meant to be like absurdly powerful. You can't really scale them this way. And then there are other characters which are like, okay, well, they practice martial arts. This makes more sense in terms of comparable power scaling.
Yeah. But yeah, I only I'm just like, if when the anime comes, they're gonna like I feel like they're gonna campaign for Creature, because as much as I hate to admit it at times, and I think a lot of the Yozakura family hate to admit it, he is the strongest character in the series, bar none. Because of the fact, and that just again what makes Creature such a terrifying character is the fact that he could take them all on by himself. But yeah, the only other member of the family that we haven't really talked about is Shion. I do really like Shion's character because I feel like she's like the gamer girl that we all want to be friends with.
Yeah, like I think she is a really interesting character as well. And I'd love to see how she gets animated in general too, because her power system or her power is really unique. But I do think that, at least from what I've read, she is one of the more least developed.
Yeah. If I had to pick one that's like probably the least developed, it would either be her or Nanano.
But Nanano got like a whole little bit of development right before I had stopped reading.
Yeah, and he also gets like his own like mini arc after the time skip.
Yeah,
So,
but even that was more about the twins than it was about
which
him.
Which by the way, Fex, any gamer worth their soul is probably going to love the going to find Nanano mini arc. You'll know, you'll understand that when you get to it. Yeah. Now, one thing that I'm really concerned about is Shion's relationship with like the young boy gamer. How well that's going to go down. Yeah, because Scarred Hero, the most overly obsessed Mission Yozakura fan, feels like that's the worst part of the whole series, because it makes Shion out to be some sort of how can I say this without getting like flagged by YouTube? Basically the opposite of basically the opposite of liking a Futaba, the male equivalent of liking a Futaba style character. There we go. That's the way I can say it.
I don't even. Okay.
Yeah. I'll type it out in the Discord server.
Okay. Yeah. Let's Well, I've got the Discord open on station.
Well, I'll DM you both.
That is one thing I do like about Opera. I can just like click on the Discord tab. It just opens.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying those words on stream. No,
those words,
those are instant.
Oh, got it.
Those are instant. YouTube takes a video down words.
Yeah,
we're not saying that. Okay, but you're right. That is okay. So I guess I'll phrase it like this: like the love interest and people that are normally partnered with Shion implicitly and sometimes slightly explicitly in the series.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is kind of somewhat funny and also concerning. But I think it doesn't come up too often that it's not a huge problem. The only reason it's probably a little more of a problem, besides what it is the fact that she really doesn't have too much outside of that. Like,
yeah,
with Shinzo, Shinzo's getting a lot right now,
Yeah.
and right before the time skip.
And
And
also,
of course, Nanano got a good amount, and Kengo got plenty, and Futaba got a fairly decent.
well,
But Chion, not much more.
well, to be fair with Fruitsville, we still haven't got her parts yet after the time skip because it's like on hold for her.
Well, to an extent, I guess you're right. You think
yeah.
you'll have another arc for like her though?
Yeah.
I really think she's just gonna serve as like the final like fight the twins need to do to prove that we're ready for this.
I don't think I don't think it's gonna be there. I think what's gonna happen. Their final test will be that Tayo is going to be the instructor for their bronze spy license, and I feel like that's going to be their final test, their big final test.
I mean, them getting a bronze spy's license is not a bad idea because what's his name? Was his name like Lucas?
Lando.
Lando. Sorry, I knew it was an L. Yeah, Lando has one, I believe. So
yeah, he does. But yeah, going back to Shinzo, everyone wants Shinzo X Ayaka to come true.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing to deal with at the end of this.
So, to give context to who Ayaka is, she's the maid of the Yozakura family who is completely in love with Tairo and Mutsumi to the point, almost to an insane degree on Karicho's level at times. But she seems to have like a really strong feelings for Shinzo, which is fun. Put the most socially awkward person with the most outgoing person together. Oh my god! And I love that. That's actually kind of addressed in the previous chapters where she's like, oh, go and find Shinzo, and Mitsumi's like, you're not coming, and she's like, no, I'm not. But you can clearly see that she kind of wants to go.
Yeah, but it is kind of sad that she isn't like more active in the story. Because, like as we said before, it's like the side characters really do get sidelined. And in Ayaka's case, I think the author had like their fun in the beginning with just like, oh, this is going to be a character that's going to be semi-antagonist, but mostly just like a silly love interest character that won't come true. But now it's just like, well, I need to do something with her. Let's just have her end up with Shinzo eventually.
Yeah. But the fact that he brought her to be technically a part of the family, you would think that you would do more with her. Because she is, and she isn't part of the family.
She's part of the household. No, I see what you mean.
Yeah, in the same way that I technically should, which I really want there to be another I arc where she's like, where she finally acknowledges Tayo and Mutsumi as like, no, they are my mother and father, and she actually becomes Yozakura. That
I know you've said that before, and I understand where you're coming from, but I also kind of like where she is now, personally.
I do. But the fact that she's been with them now for the 5 years, like and she even has actually said like they are my family. She might as well just call them mother and father at this point.
I mean, I get that, but it also doesn't have to be that way, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I guess. I just really wish it would happen because that would bring it full circle for her character, because she starts off as someone who's rejected, doesn't really have a family, and her sort of father figure died right in front of her, and she had to be pushed into another family that she didn't know if she could be a part of. And I feel like it would come full circle for her that she starts off as not having a family to finally getting a family that loves her for who she is.
Yeah, but she does have that. She just isn't using those terms and names, and I think that's fine.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, Red Dragon, funny Ayaka is their maid, yet Karicho including her in the Yozakura, Karicho included her in the Yozakura family battle plan. Lol. Like,
yeah, it's odd. Like,
so it kind of makes you think like the author wants her to be included, but doesn't really know what to do with her half the time.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of it. The author has more plans for the actual family members than most of the side cast, as we've said earlier.
Which, by the way, we've got to talk about in my opinion, the strongest element of the series by none is the relationship between Tao and Mutsumi.
Well, yeah,
That
that's undoubtedly true.
that is undoubtedly true because of the fact that even from the beginning, like before they actually end up as like a proper as like a couple in chapter 1, I love that. I love that that's how the series starts off. It's like, oh, you think this is going to be a silly little comedy harem series? Nope. Main two characters married right off the bat. And like he basically was just like, I'm going to take all these harem tropes and just toss them into the moon, into Bandora's palace, into the dark dimension. I had to circle it around. I had to circle it around to Power Rangers in some way. But I just love that I did that, because one of the things that I really cannot stand about harem series is like, they make it so obvious half the time of who the main character is gonna get with, that it's like, what's the point? And it's the fact that we can actually, like, okay, we can have a proper relationship. The two characters clearly love each other. We need to go through thick and thin for each other. That is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Tile as a protagonist, I have to say, is one of the like with the series, is one of the most underrated of the current roster, in the sense that he started off as this really shy, timid, socially awkward one. Kind of got him back up to after his interactions with the Yozakura family, back to his former personality, and now we have characters who are worshipping the ground he walks on. Like you haven't met him yet, Vex, but there is a character after the time skip who basically worships the ground Tile walks on, and it's like, can you please be my papa? And I just love that, and Tile's like, okay, but you're gonna have to be friends with my son, and he's like, oh, I don't want to be friends with your son.
Ah, man, it's so good. Honestly, the existence of Lando and Nemo does have me thinking that it's like, if the series did want to like go forward, and maybe the author is like just planning on waiting to see how successful the anime will be, because if it's successful enough and the sales do much better, then maybe they'll have the permission to keep going and do more with the story. But if not, then it's like, well, that's okay. So I feel like they're kind of hedging their bets either way.
Yeah, and that's another thing as well. And also, I know not all harems do that, Red Dragon, but I'd say about 80% of them do that. But yeah, and that's another thing I was going to say. Like, people are saying like, oh, this series, because we were all doing this, like we all thought Momo was going to be like the final boss before we knew about Asa, but people are still doing that now. Like, is Yozakura going to end now? Like, it's not going to end before the anime comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I bring this back to like to like the volumes, because you see it now on Twitter, like just with people archiving the volume sales, and they not being like, oh, 500 million copies sold in the first week, therefore it's Axe. But if you really look at like the other series that are around it, they don't do so hot as well in the same categories. Like, for example, I think the one below Yozakura, that only sold like about 400 less this week than Yozakura. But people are like saying like, oh, Yozakura's the one going to be axed.
I don't think.
I mean, honestly, there was a time period where I thought Undead Unluck could potentially get itself axed. Then an anime got announced. I'm like, nah, it's safe. It's basically safe.
It's
and same thing with Yozakura.
It's so hard to predict those charts anymore. There used to be a period where we all thought we knew what the fuck was going on in them. And then we just gave up because it's nonsensical at this point. Like, from what gets a physical release to what gets axed to what stays, there is no real rhyme or reason to any of that anymore. And I kind of like that in a way, because we're not immediately just falling down a rabbit hole, unless it does horrendously for a good stretch of time.
Yeah.
We don't see something die as quickly or be able to be predicted as easily.
Yeah.
But the opposite side to that coin that I will admit is a bit of an issue is people like have a hard time like trying to get invested in a series like before they're sure it's safe. And like for me personally, like part of the reason I started getting more into manga is because I didn't want to just like, you know, kind of pick up on series like right after an anime. I kind of wanted to see series develop from the beginning. And it's like if you see like a series with potential and then kind of get shortcut like constantly, it gets a little bit disheartening. But at the same time, we did in our last discussion, we three of us did together. I think we kind of proved the point that most of the series that get axed, like they kind of had it coming.
Yep.
Like, there's only a few of them that are like, yeah, this could have become something great if moved to another magazine or something. But others are like, nah, this was not going anywhere.
Absolutely. Like, I still won't pick up a series until it hits around 20-ish chapters just because of the history of that.
Yeah,
but
and
like
I
once
think
it
that's
hits
a
that,
safe thing to do.
once it hits that, and I, see potential, and I think it's going to be something I'll enjoy, I'll pick it up. Will I stay current with it? Obviously not. Life is busy.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I have not been keeping current with like any anime.
Yeah, I'm in kind of the same boat as well, and I feel like that's what some of the YouTubers need to kind of take a look at as well. Is that you have some of them who are like, oh, I'll talk about these series, but I'm clearly not invested with them, and then you'll find out like, oh, they're doing other stuff. They're doing other stuff. I'm like, just focus on that other stuff. You're clearly not enjoying this anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Like, it's not an issue to drop series from reviewing. That's something I had to come to terms with pretty early on. Like, I wasn't enjoying doing 7 Deadly Sins reviews back in the day, so I stopped doing them. It's not an issue. I know for a lot of them, it's a lot of their ad revenue. It's a lot of their fan bases really invested in them reviewing the series that they've clearly fallen out of love with, and they're afraid to take a risk and try something different, or be like, hey, I'm not enjoying this, guys. I'm going to start reviewing something I like again. And they're afraid they'll lose that sub count and then therefore lose a lot of their money. But a new audience can't come with, picking up a series you like.
Or or at the very least, say on Twitter, like, hey, what do you recommend me to read? I'll read it and then do a one-off video on. Like, you don't have to like keep up with it, because then that way you're not losing revenue.
Yep, engage interest. There's a lot of and I realize, because I have a massive love-hate relationship with social media, clearly.
Who doesn't?
I realize that a lot of them don't really want to go out into the cesspit that is Twitter and be like, hey, I'm trying to see what you guys would be interested in and then doing that video. But maybe their audience doesn't get that in their notification box of like, hey, I did this video because I did this Twitter poll. It's a whole lot of playing a lot of fields that kind of leads down that path of like, well, I'll just stick with it. It's like staying in a job you clearly hate. Don't do it.
Yeah. And also as well, it's like you get people who are like, I want a series that has this element, that element, this element. And then when people are like, okay, there's a series right here, Mission Yozakura Family, that does that, they're like, yeah, I'll pick it up later. It's
Luke,
like,
why do I feel like you're also talking about the Power Rangers fandom there too?
I am talking about basically any fandom that basically has that mindset of just like, we want this in this series. Then when that series comes along, they're like, oh, I'll read it later.
I mean, to be fair, I think we all have the issue of putting things in backlogs and then randomly starting things we don't need to. Because I think one of the things is that it's much easier to start like a new series than like an older series. Like recently on Twitter, one of my mutuals recommended a series called Bugle Call, which is like one of the Jump monthly series that isn't getting translated for some reason. And it's like 12 chapters. So I'm like, cool, I can get on this immediately. And it was great. But I'm also thinking, man, if this was like 50, 60 chapters, it would probably be really good. But also, I would not be as motivated to read through that many chapters.
That was
at
me
once.
with the Rumakun, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't blame you for Iruma-kun, because Iruma-kun is like so much slice of life that it's like when you get to the really crazy parts of Iruma-kun that I really enjoy, it's like you gotta like really get into it. But I'm also
Yeah.
really glad my friends recommended that one for me.
Yeah.
Even though some of them, I think, like one of my best friends just stopped keeping up with it.
Yeah. I need to catch up with Record of Ragnarok too, because that was one I was really enjoying. I might actually do a stream of that on Twitch sometime.
It's not a bad
co-
idea. I'm only reading like what's ever fully updated on Comic Key, but I know it's like a whole arc behind at least.
Jesus Christ, I can't with Comic-Key.
And I'm sorry, Fex, but I'm gonna say I would absolutely love you to do a Twitch stream read through of 100 Girlfriends.
Eventually,
Yeah.
probably after tour.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah,
But I mean, even Luke, I think I've once recommended you to try out Astro Lost in Space, which I think you have the volumes too, because the Witchwatch author wrote that.
I do have the volumes.
Yeah, so it's not like you're completely innocent.
Okay, yeah, I am not completely. I am not completely
I'm
innocent.
pretty sure I've recommended Luke a few things in the past too that he's never read, so it's fair.
Yeah,
And I still have to get into Monster. I know that's the big series, not just you guys, but like that best friend I just mentioned. Like he actually told me, "Oh man, dude, I just went and rewatched it for fun. It was great." I'm like, God, okay, I'll get into it.
It's a good binge on Netflix series too, because they're both really faithful.
Wait, it's like it's on Netflix, right?
Yep.
But only in the Japanese. And if there was one series I would recommend for the dub, it would be Monster.
Yeah, but
like,
that's it's a licensing issue with the dub mostly.
Wait, who has the dub license? Like
Viz.
Oh, okay, weird.
Yeah.
Wait, where would they put the dub? Like on DVD?
We only got one volume of it over here. Australia is the only region that got the whole dub, which is like a $500 DVD box set that I refuse to legally acquire.
I only say it, Pyjons, because it's it's like one of those series where you really have to like I said in the video that we did, you really have to be sitting down and pay attention to every single little detail.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. But going back to Yozakura very briefly before I think we can start wrapping this up, is that one of the other aspects that I really enjoy most about this series is the slice of life as well, because it really does help us to like see the characters, see the world through their eyes, and how they interact and bounce off each other. And at the start of the previous year, where we had all of those chapters focusing slice of life on developing the relationship between the families and Kirichiro, a lot of people are feeling like, oh, okay, why are we getting all of this? This is kind of dragging on a bit. But then when we got to the part of like when Kirichiro actually disappears, you actually feel the impact because of the fact that we had all those chapters leading up to that moment.
Yeah, and it is one of those series that like really invested that time, which like it's pretty risky. I feel like, especially in nowadays Jump, you would be pretty much risking a lot to be like, oh, I'm gonna set up all of these characters, and it's gonna take like, I don't know, a whole year to do, because that's just like, okay, your series may not survive the main magazine.
Yeah, because I feel like if Otis gone on record of saying this, if this was One Piece and he did that, it probably would have ended right after East Blue.
Yeah, and he's probably right.
Yeah, which is insane to think about. Like, that's always insane to think about. Like, the most successful manga of all time might have been cancelled if it came out today.
Yeah, and I mean, you would think that that's a good sign that this model may not be the best, or at least something needs to supplement it, because it's like, if you can't get these kind of hits, if you don't have the patience, we need somewhere where people can have the patience to let things go through.
Yeah.
But I feel like for my final thoughts on the whole issue is that on the whole topic of Yozakura is that people, if you haven't read it yet, give it a chance. If you could get past the initial first stages, you will probably find it being one of the strongest series in Jump, and hopefully when the anime comes out, you might be able to give the manga a chance.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of the series that the anime will be like that great jumping off point for a lot of people to get into the manga, because the first arc is very, very, slow and sluggish. So you could theoretically like just binge the anime and then get past that initial stages if you like it and fall in love with the characters like a lot of people do in that first bit. And then just go and binge the rest of the manga. It's also, I feel like, one of the series that I am hoping escapes, and we were talking before, like hoping that it escapes this current curse of production issues that have been plaguing a lot of these anime, because the smaller studios seem to be having a lot of that issue right now, and I'm hoping that this is one of them that doesn't fall into that trap. Because we've had Nier Automata and Zom 100 both fall into that indefinite hiatus point for a bit here.
Ayakashi was also in that situation
Yeah.
for a good while.
So I'm hoping this escapes that little curse, because it could be a make or break point for a lot of newer fans too, having to sit there and wait for episode after episode, like 2 days, 6 days, indefinite, delay. So I want to see this one flourish and go through without any issues whatsoever, really. Because if it nails that production and release schedule, it could be one of the most, brilliant, concise, short anime seasons that we have in the last couple seasons.
Yeah. And
also, I want to see Goliath animated. That's one thing I want to see.
Yeah, I'm just looking at like when it could theoretically come out, the anime. It could potentially come out in April, but then it would be going up against Kaiju number 8.
I don't give a shit about Kaiju.
I mean, honestly, the fan base doesn't give much of a shit about Kaiju, because like if you like just go into and I go into Reddit for like a lot of manga discussions I do, because that's where like most of it is, because I feel like people like actually talk about stuff there. Like it's not like,
just hate on everything that isn't the mainstream on Reddit.
Because like Twitter feels like people are just like yelling at each other and online.
It is.
And just like the weirdest takes I've ever seen. But like Reddit, it's like, okay, let's have like, well, you've seen my trademark party jam comments. Like people actually like going into detailed discussions. But like with Kaiju number 8, most people are like, man, why are we still kind of reading this? This is like so generic and just like nothing.
I felt that after 2 chapters. I'm like, I'm just not going to bother with this one.
I don't blame you. That was probably smart. But the thing is, this series does sell well, and so it is popular. And with kaiju and kaiju fights, I get it. It's like a very prime time for that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a whole Godzilla movie coming out, and that looks awesome.
Another one.
Yeah, but this one is at least from Japan, and they haven't done theirs in a couple years. So this isn't like MonsterVerse stuff. Although the MonsterVerse one is getting something on Apple.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew and I did a whole tier list ranking the kaijus in general. So like it was a video we did that was really fun. But my God, I forgot how many different versions of Godzilla there were. Holy shit!
Really are. I really have to get into some of the older ones, because I really enjoyed the current iterations, but the older ones are pretty wild. I think
if you can find the I think it was Criterion, and if you can find it for not an absurd price, the Criterion box set or whatever it was that came out a couple of years ago is like the perfect jumping off point for you. I have it, and it is outrageously expensive now. Like a pair of Jordans by Scalper's expensive.
Oh, okay.
I can imagine that, especially when you have in one of the eras of Godzilla, you have the most awesome moment in any Godzilla film, the drop kick all over the drop kick, pulling his weight on the tail.
Yeah, I mean, you also have Baby Godzilla in there, so you have the good with the bad. But it was like 30 some discs in general, so I get why it would be so expensive. But whenever those limited releases come out, like they immediately get scooped up. I had a hell of a time tracking down the Friday the 13th one too for a decent price, but I had to have it because I love slashers.
Which, by the way, speaking of slashers, going to see Saw X at the weekend.
I refuse to partake in Saw. Like that is one franchise that I can't do gore porn. I can't.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I haven't
but
really gotten into Saw myself. I just know of it.
I saw
but
one of the
enjoy Luke.
I saw one of the traps for that. It's mostly like anything that does with the eye that I can't do. I can watch somebody get degloved by a monster and just ripped apart, but when something torturous happens to an eyeball, I can't. I just physically can't.
Yeah, which is probably why the part with Asa explaining what he did to Subumi's eyeball probably made you sick to your stomach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, also as well in regards to the anime, I've got to say the designs for the anime, because we've got the designs for Futaba, Mutsumi, Tayo, and Kiricho, they look amazing compared to what was initially presented. Because that initial poster that we saw, like I was a bit skeptical about that.
Oh, so was I. I was originally with the Ayakashi designs too, the first ones that came out.
Yeah,
but both improved immensely, so I'm glad.
Well, yeah, I think people also thought the same when Kaiju designs came out. But again, I think stuff just looks better in motion.
Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah. Any other final thoughts before we end it?
I mean, I want to say that for a Yozakura stream, we talked about so many non-Yozakura topics.
Yeah.
I know.
Which I think is just that we really need to do more of these at some point when we can get time.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, we did talk a lot about Yozakura. The vast majority was about Yozakura.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we got another one scheduled for Thursday at this point, so like it'll be fun to do another video with you guys that isn't Power Rangers. I'm sorry, I can only take so much Power Rangers at once.
I know, I know. I agree. This was a good break away from it.
I mean, we say that, but you do Yozakura's reviews like every week.
You are the only one of us that's still, other than me, that regularly does a manga review. Well, and I'm proud of you for keeping with that.
Yeah, well, I think it's because I only do one, and I don't like because I feel like that's why a lot of I would say a lot of anime manga YouTube people are just like people are just like a bit like getting burnt out, if for lack of a better word. It's that they either do a bajillion series all at once, or they talk so much about one series to death. Like, what's there more to talk about? But the fact that I'm just like
looking at teching.
Yeah, looking at teching. But I feel like because I'm only doing like, okay, the review of one series a week, that's fine. It's simple, easy to do. And the fact that I don't keep it to a schedule, like the reviews may come out on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, sometimes Thursdays. And I feel like I'm only like, okay, I do them when I feel like doing them. That's kind of like allows me to be like why I still enjoy doing it, that I don't bog myself down to a schedule with it.
Yep. And that's a great way to look at it. But I think we should wrap this up because some of us have
we're an hour and a
things
half in.
Yeah. So anyway, go and read Mission Yozakura if you have the time, or just wait for the anime and then read it after that.
Yep.
Yeah. And until next time, peace.